Hello, hope everyone's doing well. And today we're gonna go over the wishing well and what ships I think you should look out for if you don't have them already. And yeah, just go over what is it, who should you be looking for. Maybe there's someone you haven't seen in this list that you should want to grab afterwards. But yeah, let's just go over what is the wishing well. So during the anniversary events, maybe sometimes New Year's, but I know it'll be for this anniversary coming up. There'll be an additional tab between build and orders called the wishing well. Now, what it'll let you do is select between a light pool, heavy pool, and a special pool. The light pool has light cruisers and destroyers. The heavy pool has heavy cruisers, battleships, and battle cruisers. And the special pool has light aircraft carriers, and submarines. And once you select, and you can only select the pool out of one pool at a time. And then once you make your selection, that's it. And what it'll let you do is you can select two ships that'll be on Reno. And those will be you. And once you choose them, that's it. That's all. You cannot change your choice. So make sure you make it count. Now for the wishing well, I would say your first priority is if there's a ship that's been in the pool for a while and you haven't gotten them and they're not available anywhere else and you really want the ship, just go with them. And you can have one of your other selections be a useful ship you haven't gotten. But I would say definitely go for a bit, pick with preference on this one, just, because maybe you really like a ship. Like, when I first started, it was during CN anniversary, so there was a wishing well, and I was very disappointed to find out that Honolulu was not in the wishing well, because she was the reason I started the game. Not available, so I was very disappointed. But I did pick some ships I liked, or I thought I liked at the time. And yeah, so I'm going to go through the list, but in terms of priority, ships you like should be first, if you don't have them. Useful ships on this list, I'll go through each of them and break down why I think they're useful. And then third is collection purposes. So let's say you have all the ships you really like, you have all the really useful ships, and there's like one or two ships in, the heavy pool or the special pool that you haven't gotten yet. You can grab them for collection purposes. So like last wishing well, I did Ryuho and Taiho Muse because I didn't have either of them. So yeah, let's get started with the light pole. Also, there will be a selection ticket with various ships on it. I would say prioritize grabbing a ship from there. That way you can save your wishing well pulls from somewhere else, for someone else. Also, for, selecting ships, I say it wouldn't be a bad idea to do a SSR and an elite instead of two SSRs. That way you're not, getting tons of dupes of one you selected, not the other one. You get disappointed. This way you're more likely to get both. So yeah, thinking in a cube situation, choose that. Also, for the rankings of these ships, ships that are easily available elsewhere, from the merit shop are farmable. We rated very, very low, but still worthwhile to get. So yeah, if you're wondering like, oh, why is San Diego and Noshiro so low in the list? Because you can get San Diego from the merit shop, and you get Noshiro from farming. So yeah, that's the reasoning for that. Alright, so here we are with the light pole of ships. In top tier, we have Sirius and Kazagumo. Extremely good for buffing carriers. Sirius buffs your carriers' aviation by 10%, and also increases their hit rate against destroyers and light cruisers and heavy cruisers by 10%, so dodgy enemies, she helps deal with that. And it's a really good mainstay of carrier fleets. Yeah. Kazagumo, same thing. Also really good for carrier fleets. She got really good torpedo stat too. So she also has really nice basically decreases her loading time of torpedo barrage whenever her all-out assault procs. So probably have a really fast firing gun on her, and that's so as a torpedo ship, really good there. In addition, she fires. Sorry, get ahead of myself. She increases the damage dealt by all carriers, light and normal carriers, by 15%. And when she fires her 4th wave torpedoes, she restores 10% HP, the lowest HP percent carrier currently afloat in your fleet. If your flagship is a CV, so not a light carrier, but just a regular carrier, restore an additional 5% HP for that ship. And this skill is not stacked with other rare air raid assistance buffs. So, very good, just in general, for carriers. Basically a mainstay, along with Sirius. Next up is Montpelier. She's a light cruiser, and she was kind of before. She has anti-air mode, but once you give, and what that does is it buffs your anti-air stats, but decreases your firepower, which, isn't great, because you lose that firepower buff. But once she gets her augment gear, which is after you have her max limit broke, and you can craft that, her anti-air mode skill changed to decrease damage taken by 15%, so instant buff. And then what it does is if she has the Eagle Union gear equipped, her anti-air buff is doubled, so it goes from 40% to a 80% buff, and the firepower debuff does not apply. So instead of being a 40% buff with a 20% firepower debuff at max level, it turns into an 80% buff and no debuff. And every 20 seconds, she has a 25% chance to increase her damage dealt by 25% for 8 seconds. So, really, really good. And she also buffs the rest of your cruisers and makes them do more damage, take less damage. So, every 20 seconds has a 6% chance to increase firepower and accuracy for all cruisers in the fleet. So, this is light, heavy, large, by 25% and decrease the damage taken by them by 15% for 8 seconds. So really, really good at just herself being anti-air battery. It's got 334 at level 120, so really good stats to start with. And then the 8% buff, really, really nice. So yeah, once you get her augment gear, very, very good. I wish it would have gone to like Cleveland, because Cleveland's an elite, and Montpelier is already SSR, but so be it. Next up, we have Stephen Potter, and she also buffs the damage dealt by your carriers by 15%. However, she is an elite, so I put her a little further down. But she's an Eagle Union, so if you will have some synergy or want to build a theme fleet with your Eagle Union carriers, you run her in Baltimore, because Baltimore also buffs carriers, and we'll get to her when we get to the heavy pull. And she also buffs her own anti-air and evasion by 15%. And she also makes your Vanguard's frontmost ship take less damage for 10 seconds, by 10% for 50 seconds. And increases the damage dealt by your Vanguard's backmost ship by 10% for 50 seconds. So, let's say you run Anchorage, Stephen Potter in the middle with Baltimore as your off tank. Anchorage is taking 10% less damage for 50 seconds, and Baltimore is doing 10% more damage for that 50 seconds. So that's really, really nice. Really good buffs. And then next up, it's kind of like getting lower tiers. I should switch around. It's basically in reverse order now that I'm looking at it, but we'll just go. I think it should be Ingraham. She's a healer, really nice as a destroyer. Got decent AA, decent torpedo stat. A summon robot that spawns shields that can block enemy shells, which is really nice. And they also heal. And while her summon is deployed, it buffs your whole fleet's anti-air by 15%, so that's really, really good. And then she's a second skill that buffs her own anti-air by 50% of her total torpedo stat. So this is base stats plus gear. And decreases damage, burn damage she takes by 15%. So really nice, more survivability. And then she heals herself for 1% of her max HP every 15 seconds in combat. So, not the greatest, but, you know, just a little survivability for a destroyer. Pretty nice. Next up is Reno. She's mostly here because I don't have her, and I'm very sad about that. But she is an Atlanta class, so she has really good anti-air. 479 at level 120, so really, really good. And then if there are carriers in your fleet, she buffs her own crit rate by 35%. And for each carrier in your same fleet, increase her damage dealt to DDs and light cruisers by 15%. So, 10%, up to a max of 3 stacks. So that can be up to 30% if you have all carriers in your back line. And then for the first 4 battles of each sortie that this ship takes part in, she decreases damage your carriers take by 10%. So really nice, keeping your carriers alive. And she got the anti-air to back that up. And then she has another skill that buffs her firepower and anti-air. And every second time a ship in your main fleet takes damage, so say a plane slips by, it buffs her anti-air and firepower even more by 6%, and that can stack twice. So Reno, really, really good for anti-air purposes. Sorry for my voice there. And lastly on this level, we have Yuubari. Now, she is here solely because she is a skill pro-type cruiser, and she increases experience gained by your cruisers by 15% after combat. So when you're grinding PR ships or just trying to level any cruisers up, and you know can use cruisers, so thinking mostly Azuma, Ibuki, Kitakaze, Shimato, really speed that process up. And you can throw her in with other cruisers and help level them faster. So that's why she's here. She also has full firepower, which extra firepower stat, not too crazy. And after retrofit, she has a bunch of wacky summons she pulls out. So yeah, that's that list. Alright, so next up is ships that kind of have more niche uses or just kind of, the first 2 have niche uses that are really relevant right now. And then the latter bunch is kind of like, okay, those are pretty decent options that, you know, people want to take a look at. So first up is Bristol. Now the main thing with her is every 20 seconds, she will illuminate the area in front of her, which debuffs the enemies, which the debuff is they have reduced evasion by 10% for 10 seconds. So that's really nice for dodgy destroyers. The really niche use right now is the San Diego boss fight in the extreme challenge mode. Try to get rid of Sandy's evasion because she has an ungodly amount right now in that fight. The boss, not regular Sandy. But Bristol has some other things. She has decent anti-air, pretty good torpedo stat, 375 at 120. Good ASW. A lot of the American submarines or destroyers have good ASW, so that's another points for them. And every 20 seconds, she has a summon, fire special barrage, and for 10 seconds, buffs Bristol's accuracy and crit rate by 15%. In addition, so regardless of summon being active, increases damage by 10% that your Alnum Sumner classes deal to enemies that have been illuminated at least twice. So this is after 60 seconds. Because Lights Out skill, the illumination skill, procs it every 20. So it starts on cooldown. So it'll be after 60 seconds. So longer fights, potentially boss fights. And if you're using other Alnum Summoners, it's even better. So this is Bristol, Alnum Summoner herself, the name ship. Ingraham, I believe that's it for now. When we finally get Laffy 2, she will also be in there. I believe Cooper is the Alnum Summoner class too. Yeah, so that's nice buffs. But yeah, really niche use. Aurora, also niche use. Sorry, I was having a brain fart there. She buffs her own damage dealt to destroyers, transport vessels, torpedo boats, and suicide boats by 20%. So, and she's an elite, so be aware of that. And then, her other skill, Light of Dawn. While she's alive, she decreases the evasion rate of enemy destroyers and light cruisers by 20%. So that's a hefty chunk. So, really good for dealing with dodgy destroyers and cruisers. So, once again, one of the builds I saw in the San Diego, a lot of people doing for San Diego's boss fight, was using Aurora and Bristol. I don't think he's both in the same fleet, but yeah, for that evasion buff or debuff to San Diego, it's really, really good. Next up, M. Sumner. I just like her because I like her. Not too much about it. She was added in the Baltimore event rerun. Really good torpedo stat, decent AA, good ASW. Takes less burning damage and has extra damage against light armor enemies. And then every 20 seconds, she has a 7% chance to fire a special barrage and buff your whole fleet's AA stat by 20% for 8 seconds. That's really good. And then if she is sortied with another Eagle Union ship, or when she sinks her second enemy, she buffs her torpedoes and anti-air stats by 15% till the end of the battle. If she's equipped with any Eagle Union gear, she gains an extra Ghost AA gun. And this AA gun has a 30 range, 1.038 second cooldown, and deals at max level 142 damage per shot. So that's pretty good for an anti-air gun. I don't know if that it won't apply for her, the Shimato gun. That is a cruiser gun, and she cannot use cruiser guns. So yeah, I actually like M. Sumner. She's a cool ship. Next up is Tashkent. She has a slow. That's pretty nice. Helps you hit enemies. And then when she sinks an enemy, she buffs her own firepower by 2%, and that stacks up to 5 times, so it's a 10% buff. So, after sinking enemies, she can get up to a 20% buff, so that's really nice. And then, at the start of the battle, increase main gun efficiency and accuracy for all your Northern Parliament DDs that have Northern Parliament main gun equipped. So, Tashkent Muse, Grozny, I think Minsk is one. That one that has the bodysuit and is an inventor came out not too long ago. They get buffs. So yeah, it's pretty good. And then Lay Terrible, just because she's a very, very fast destroyer, she's very dodgy, and so that's a really, the evasion buff, like evasion stats, really nice for helping with recon in like World 14. So yeah, really good buffs there. And then, really good stats there. And then every 20 seconds, she fires a special barrage. And when she lands 5 consecutive main gun hits on the same enemy, buffs her firepower by 5% until the end of the battle. So, a really fast main gun that has a consistent pattern. And then that buff can be stacked up to 4 times. And once she reaches the 4th stack, she buffs her torpedo stat by 20% and fires the same barrage. So, pretty nice. Just if you can get that buff to go off as soon as possible, really good. And then she buffs her speed even more, so she is very fast. If there's another DD in your Vanguard, buffs her speed even more, and then increases her AA and evasion by 20%. So really nice buffs. And if she's the only DD in your Vanguard, increases her reload by 20% and decreases her damage taken by 5%. So a little more survivability. Yeah, so that's the kind of interesting niche uses category. Moving on to the next layer. Alright, getting towards the bottom of the light pole here. We have Yat Sen. Now, Yat Sen can be really potent and really good if you use her with both Ninghai and Pinghai. This way, they all kind of have self-fulfilling buffs. She decreases Ninghai and Pinghai's damage taken by 20% and buffs their evasion by 30% when she's sorting with them, so that's really good. That's before she has her augment gear equipped. And then when it's her augment gear equipped, oh sorry, this is a retrofit. My mistake. If she has retrofit, it's if there's any other Dragon Imperial ships in her fleet, increases Yat Sen's, Ping Hai, Ning Hai's damage taken by 20%, buffs her evasion by 30, so that just adds Yat Sen to the list and makes it less restrictive. Oh, sorry, Yat Sen is in before. Never mind. Buffs your Dragon Empire ships dealt by 5%. That's pretty good. So if you have, you know, Yat Sen, Ning Hai, Ping Hai in the front line, and then you have, what's her name? I forgot her name, but the aircraft carrier one. I think that's one of the few backliners they have. It also buffs firepower or damage dealt by 5%, so that's nice. She also has a skill that makes her do more damage to Sakura Empire ships. So for campaign purposes, the main campaign is really good because you fight Sakura Empire ships throughout the whole thing. So that's really, really nice. And I believe Ping Hai and Ning Hai both have that skill. And she also gets another skill in her retrofit. Increases her speed by 8. Every 12 seconds, she fires Special Barrage. And if she has the Plum Petal Poetry gear equipped, so let me real quick pull it up so I can see where you get that. Special Barrage decreases all your Dragon Empire ships' damage taken by 5%. Your Vanguard ships, Dragon Empire, by 5%, and then decreases your Dragon Empire's main fleet damage taken by 10%. So that's really, really potent. Even more survivability. So this is an Augs gear limited to an event. So I believe this is the same event that added, what's her name? Oh, I'm blanking really hard. My apologies. I really like her. Chenhai. Chenhai is the carrier. So it's the same event as Chenhai. Let me see when that was. Happy Lunar New Year 2020. So, same event Bristol got added in. So I believe Chenhai will be in the special poll. So yeah, if you have Yat Sen retrofitted and you have Ping Hai and Ning Hai in the same fleet, very, very potent. And you can get Ping Hai and Ning Hai from the guild shop. So yeah, no worries there, but lower on the list because there's, you have to get some other ships, and there's just other better options. But if you want to build a Dragon Emperor fleet, this is one of the best. Next up is Avrora, not to be confused with Aurora. She buffs her Vanguard's fleet damage by 35%, and then she has her augment module. She also gets a special barrage, and increases her firepower and torpedo stat by 20% for 10 seconds. So that's when she fires the barrage. So yeah, a nice Northern Parliament ship, nice buffer. If you're gonna run with the all Northern Parliament frontline, then help buff the rest of them, or anyone in general. So yeah, not crazy, but I figured I'd just throw a Northern Parliament ship in there. And lastly on this tier, we have Swiftshire. Now she's okay. She's very, very squishy. I've seen people say. I haven't used her too much, but she has a AA buff when she fires her anti-air guns. So for your whole Vanguard, and then for every 5 enemy aircraft shot down, debuffs her firepower by 1%, decreases the damage taken by your main fleet by 1% from any aircraft, and this can be stacked up to 10 times. So that's up to a 10% buff. So that's pretty good. And then she also has a buff that increases her crit rate and hit rate, gets enemy DDs and CLs by 30% for the crit rate and 10% for the hit rate. So more focused on DDs and CLs for her. And when she hits her enemies with main guns, has a 10% chance to increase that enemy's evasion rate by 15%. So really nice debuffs, really nice buffs for her to deal with dodgy cruisers and destroyers. Alright, at the bottom of the list, we have 3 ships that you can easily get elsewhere, and 1 ship I just really like, and I wanted to throw on here for do it for the people. So first off, the 1 ship that I really like in here, I like most of them, is Paimat Mercuria. And, She's in the live stream. She has her little funny dances and skits and all that stuff. She has her workout routine to the ramen timer thing, and just lovable Paimat. Yeah, what she does is she has extra damage dealt to enemy CAs and BBs by 20%, and then when she takes damage, has a 15% chance to dodge all enemy attacks for 10 seconds. And this skill has a 20-second cooldown when activated and starts on cooldown. So she basically has a built-in special effect of the washing machine for herself. That's really, really cool. And then when she gets retrofit, she gets another skill that buffs her torpedo and accuracy by 15%. And then every 15 seconds has a 70% chance to fire a special barrage that slows enemies by 20%. So that's really nice. So yeah, just will help him with extra damage. And it's lovable Paimat. So yeah, she's there. And I'll go with Belfast next. She's next on the list. So Belfast helped out a lot of people with the early game when they got her. And she's still really good for light armor enemies. So before her augment module, she has a more damage to HE by 25% and more chance to ignite by 3%. So, get that burnout. Keep it going. And then after her augment module, she has that same skills, but that skill is increased with extra damage to burning enemies by 16%. And while there is a burning enemy afloat, increases her evade by 16%. So yeah. So once she gets that burn up, she's doing really, really good. And helps deal with that burnt enemy. And she also has a smoke screen, which buffs your evasion rate for everyone in it. And decreases damage taken from enemy aircraft by 35% if you're in it. And it lasts for 10 seconds and does not stack with other smoke screen. So similar to Anchorage, similar to a lot of smoke screeners. Just really nice. And then next up is San Diego. Very, very good anti-air battery. Just for that purpose, even before retrofit, really, really good for anti-air. Skill, I am number 1. Fires their anti-air guns, 50% chance to increase fleet's anti-air by 50% for 8 seconds. That's really good. And after retrofit, she gets an additional anti-air buff, and then has a 100% chance every 20 seconds to release a powerful barrage. So what she ends up having after retrofit is double barrages. She is really good ASW. It's above 200 threshold. Extremely good anti-air. Bit of full torpedoes, but that's acceptable. Okay firepower. Okay HP. So yeah, but you can get her from the metal shop when the cruises are available. And then her retrofit item is available in the core data shop. Or the prototype shop, sorry. So you can get there with the like UR kitty stuff. So yeah, San Diego, really, really good, but easily to get, so she's low on the list. And lastly is Noshiro. She's in light pool normally, but you can also farm her from, what's the event called? Swirling Cherry Blossom, so I want to make sure. She's one that she's a dropship in B3 and D3, but she's also guaranteed after defeating D3 boss 60 times. So, it's a bit of grinding, but she's definitely worth it. So as for skills for Noshiro, she increases her evasion rate by 50% and decreases torpedo damage taken by your Vanguard by 20%. So the whole Vanguard, less damage from torpedoes. Really good if you're facing a lot of DDs. Later in the game, submarines. And then her next skill, which is the main reason why people use her, is she buffs her own damage to carriers by 20%. Not that so much. But while she is afloat, increases torpedo of your Vanguard by 20%. And starting at level 7, increases your Vanguard's crit rate, so on your front line, not the ship Vanguard, by 12%. So once you get the skill up, that's extra torpedo stat, extra crit rate. Really, really nice. And that's torpedo crit rate and main gun crit rate. That's not just torpedoes. So yeah, really, really good for torpedo fleets. This was the light pool. Let's move on to the heavy pool. Alright, so we're on the heavy pool. So, first up, we have probably one of the greatest gifts to starting players, Richeleu. I started during her event. I did not get her. I was very disappointed. And then, right after that, was the Nagato rerun. Did not get her either. Was very sad. But Richeleu, she's a French battleship, so she has a preload. Very, very good. And then she also has a bunch of buffs, so she buffs all your French ships, so firepower, torpedo, accuracy, and reload by 15%. All your Irish ships do 6% more damage, and all your Vichy ships take 6% less damage. So more damage on the Irish side, more tankiness on the Vichy side. And then when she fires her main gun, 75% chance to fire a special barrage. And this barrage is very, very cool. It's nice. It's colors of the French flag, first off. And then it has a 70% chance to inflict a special burn over time. So with special burns, they all stack. So you can have your normal burn stat and then your normal burn damage over time. And then all your additional special burns can stack on top of that. So you have like 5 different burns on a enemy, and they're just going getting chopped down. Or burnt down, not chopped down. And her burn, does the damage, and also debuffs the enemies by reducing their firepower, torpedo, and aviation stats by 5%. And this burn lasts for 30 seconds. So, not just doing tons of damage and then damage over time, but also debuffing the enemy for a long time. And then her and John Bart have a similar skill, but with her, it's the first manually aimed salvo of each battle is guaranteed to critically hit. And then when equipped with a high explosive main gun, increases main gun damage dealt by 12%. So yeah, really, really potent, especially if you play on manual. Even if it's just the beginning of the battle and you switch to auto afterwards, really, really good amount of damage, especially for HE. So yeah, definitely a mainstay of French fleets. And then we have the buffer for the Sakura fleets, Nagato. So buffs your Sakura Empire ships firepower by 10%, reload and accuracy by 20%, and also increases the damage to your Sakura Empire carriers by 20%. So that was a common thing, like old school PvP, was have Nagato and then Kaga and Akagi. And the Kaga and Akagi would have their early launch planes, and they would be buffed by Nagato. So yeah, really, really good for buffing your Sakura Empire fleets. Ideally, if she had like a torpedo buff in there, maybe she'll get a augment gear that gives torpedo buff, aviation buff. Well, get the extra damage, that's fine. And then not so great is her special barrage, which only has a 40% chance to fire. But it's a very, very wide shooting barrage. Let me pull up the browser scene for you. As you can see, that covers a whole lot of the screen. So when the barrage goes off, it's very, very good. However, it's only a 4% chance. So should she be so high? She got that nice. The barrage is nice, and the Sakura Empire buff is nice. So I'll bump her up, but maybe she could be a bit lower. Next up is Baltimore. Very nice heavy cruiser. You can run her 2 different ways. You can run her as a tank if you don't have carriers, and then like an off tank if you do. But yeah, that's something to be aware of. With her, you just need a fast gun. The ammo type does not matter, because she changes the ammo type to a special AP, which has a 85 for light, 120 for medium, and 85 for heavy modifiers on it. So, she's good. And then at level 8 or higher, each shell has a 3.5% chance to inflict armor break to enemies with heavy armor. So even if, it's not 100 for the armor modifier, she gets that extra chance of armor break, which is really, really good. And the armor break does not stack with other forms of armor break. It's not a special one. And then for her flexibility tactics, you could say, when she's sorted with at least one Eagle Union carrier or light carrier, buffs your fleet's anti-air by 7%, and increase aviation for all your Eagle Union carriers in your fleet by 15%. So yeah, use her with Stephen Potter, and that's a really good combination for an Eagle Union themed fleet. So you're not missing out on having like not Kazagumo or Sirius. But you can run Sirius in there too. And if she's sorted without any Union CVs or CVLs, she buffs her firepower by 12% and evasion by 15%. So it comes a bit more tanky. So yeah, definitely. Because I was trying to use her in World 13 back in the day when I was working on clearing that, and she just felt really squishy. And like, oh, it's because I'm running Essex, Saratoga, and an Enterprise in the backline. Yeah, of course, she doesn't have that extra evasion. So yeah, overall, really good heavy cruiser, really good buffer, and got that good debuff for the armor break. Speaking of debuffers, we have Amagi, and while she is afloat, she decreases the firepower, torpedo, and aviation of all enemies by 9%. So that's just a nice little debuff across all of them. And a special note saying this only applies to when she is in that particular battle. So it's not a out of battle buff like some of the URs have. So be aware of that. And then while she's afloat, decreases the burn damage her main fleet takes by 50% and buffs her evasion by 10%. So, you know, nice debuffs on the enemy, nice buffs on your fleet. And then she also has a barrage. That's 7% chance to fire when she fires her main gun. And if your fleet has 4 more Soccer Empire ships, increase loading time of the ship's first salvo by 45% at max level. We have 3 other Soccer Empire ships with her, then faster main gun. So yeah, really, really nice. Decent firepower stat. Everything else kind of eh. And also she's my server's named after her, so I had to put her on there. And we have Bismark here. Unfortunately, we just had Bismark 2 recently, but if you want another Iron Blood buffer, there we go. So the first volley of each main gun salvo is guaranteed to critically hit. So when they fire, if it'll be like, if you look at the gun stats, it'll be like some number times 3 times 2, and so it'll shoot a couple of shots out. The first set of shots it fires out, those are guaranteed to critically hit. And then which is a cruiser gun, a light cruiser gun in her secondary slot, which I generally put light cruiser guns if they can use them on a lot of battleships anyway. Increases detection range and shooting range to 90, but it does less damage. So it can fire further out, but it does less damage. So, you know, it's a bit of a trade-off. And if she's sorted as a flagship, she buffs your damage dealt by Iron Blood carriers by 20%. So run her in the middle with Graf Zeppelin and August Percival, or Peter Strasser, Little Zeffy, Wesser, and they'll get buffed. And then, if this is only she's a flagship, she has a special barrage when she fires her main gun. And look at this barrage pattern. Oh, it's decent. So yeah, decent spread. Sometimes when it says barrage pattern, I forget that sometimes it looks like Nagato's, and sometimes it looks like Georgia's, which is very small. And then she also has a last skill, Will of the Iron Blood. Increase the crit rate of main guns, torpedoes, and aircraft by 20%, and reload by 12% for all Iron Blood ships that are in your fleet. And then if Tirpitz is in the battle, Tirpitz does 40% extra damage. So yeah, Really, really potent for Iron Blood buffing. Obviously, she's power crept by her 2 variant, so it's unlikely she'll be getting a augment gear anytime soon. So that was the 3rd tier of ships. Alright, so we're on to the B tier. We have Sovetskaya Rossiya. She has a special barrage when she fires her main guns. I don't have a preview of it, so hopefully it's good. And then she also buffs, well, if there's Northern Parliament or Dragon Emperor ships for each one, she buffs her firepower and accuracy by 5%. This can stack up to 4 times. However, this only works the first 2 battles of each sortie she takes part in, so probably, Northern Parliament or a mix with Dragon Emperor boss fleet for her. So, should she be so high? But if you want a Russian ship and you want to help with farming, what's her name? The carrier in PR5, help with that. Next up is Pola, quite like her and her sister Zara. That's why they're both on here. Also, they're fucking hot. When Pola fires her main guns, 50% chance to fire a special barrage. There's a 10% cooldown between activations. And if there are 2 or more Sardinia ships in your fleet, so this includes her, so if you have one other ship, Sardinia, so say Veneto, increase the proc chance by 20%. So it'll be very, very consistent barrage. And then she has another skill that buffs evasion by 15% for the first 45 seconds of the battle. And as long as she is afloat, increases the firepower by 10%, anti-air by 15% for all Sardinia Empire Vanguard ships. And decreases damage taken by all Zara class ships, including herself, by 6%. So really nice buff for your Sardinia theme fleets. So yeah, I like her. Also, goddamn good skin. I'll put my link to the little video I made of her. And then Zara, so a little bit power crept by her sister. She came out first. Pola came out in the rerun of Imperial Tragic Comedy. But still decent. She's a bit more tanky. Can deploy 2 shields when she gets attacked. So 18% chance when she's attacked. 2 shields that can block up to 10 shells. And the shields last for 12 seconds. So, decent tanking abilities. And then when she's equipped with an HE or semi-armor piercing main gun, increases own damage dealt with main gun by 12%, but loses the ability to ignite. Alternatively, if she has a AP main gun, when her shots hit, there's an 8% chance to increase her own damage dealt to that enemy by 15% for 10 seconds. So, more support and got an interesting gun ability. But I feel like Pola's buffs and her consistent barrage makes her a bit better than her sister. I put them both on here. And lastly, in this little conga line, we have John Bart, the pirate. With her, you want to have her on manual mode. Her skill, Pirate Soul, she does 60% more damage with each aim shot for her main guns. So, if you play on auto, that's just 6% damage you're losing. So that's rough. And then, additionally, for each aim shot that is manually aimed, I'm not sure why they wrote it like that, the manual aim bonus becomes 60%, and these 2 stack with each other. So, when you play on auto mode, you actually lose damage with your battleships. So be aware if you're going to be doing battleship boss fights. At least for shooting with your battleships, switch to manual mode and fire, so you don't lose on that extra damage. I don't remember what the actual damage bonus is. John Bart's becomes 60, so it's lower than that. And then Oh, it's specifying what an aim shot is. So, okay. So aim shots are the first volley round of each main gun salvo, regardless of auto mode the player aimed them. You get a slowdown effect after exercises, huh? Okay. So, like with Bismarck's, who got extra crit, she has extra damage with that first two or whatever, how many shots that go out with her first, she first fires her guns. And if you play on manual, you get an extra 6% damage, so that's pretty nice. But it's only for the first set that are going out. And she has an augment gear, but her other skill, Final Shot, when she's equipped with quadruple 380mm gun, she gets extra crit rate and crit damage, so 30% crit rate, 50% crit damage. So she wants to have that gun. So that gun is available in the core data shop. You can grab it there. And then when she has her augment gear, she gets, let's see, the special barrage every 20 seconds. So it's a bit, nice little bit of buff. And then her augment gear gives 25 plus 10 firepower and 6 plus 5 accuracy. And has a special skill that once per battle, when her HP falls below 50% as a result of damage taken, buffs her firepower by 20 for 20 seconds. So yeah, a nice augment gear. If she didn't have the augment gear, she would not have been on this list, no matter how much I like her design. It just does not make up for it. Now, for Duke of York, in terms of actual using Duke of York, I would put her up with Richeleu. She's really, really good. Really, really nice buffs and debuffs. However, you can get her from the merit shop if you're doing PvP. You can get her from farming Winter's Crown. So, really easy to get her that way. And she might even be in a selection ticket. So, for Duke of York's skills, but she's still really good, that's why she is still on this list. Every 20 seconds, at max level, fires a special barrage targeting the enemy farthest away from the ship. And this barrage decreases the speed of enemies hit by 40% for 6 seconds. So you have a slower. And it's not a widespread, so it's probably only hit one thing. But that way, you can get a slower. That vaguely times your battleship guns. And also, increases the damage dealt with the first main gun salvo each battle by 50%. And all enemies hit by the ship's main gun take 12% more damage for 8 seconds. So if you have her shooting a bit faster than the rest of your battleship fleet, really good debuffer for that purpose. So yeah, Duke York, very, very good. I just wanted to throw her in here. And then Algerie, wanted to throw in a French heavy cruiser. Burr niche. Kinda okay. Yeah, so got okay survivability. Started battle every 30 seconds after. With a shield, I can block for that last 20 seconds, block up to 5 enemy torpedoes. And then while the shield is up, increases firepower by 15%, and its damage against enemy DDs and battleships by 12%. That's nice. And then 5 seconds after entering manual mode, buffs her evasion by 15% and speed by 8%. And switching to auto removes the buff. So, if you start in auto and switch to manual, she gets buffed. So, interesting mix of the gameplay to her skill. So, yeah, that is those two. And then the last two down here, I just threw in because I quite like them. They're not terribly fantastic, but, I want to throw them in. So we have Hipster Muse. She is the Muse variant of Admiral Hipper, and she is slightly better. So at the start of battle, and there's a 70% chance every 20 seconds after that. For 12 seconds, change her main gun's ammo to type Muse Red. These are HE shells with modifiers of 110 for light, 120 for medium, and 100 for heavy. So that's really, really nice. And then every 30 seconds, deploys 2 rotating shields that can block up to 10 shells. And the shields last for 15 seconds. And then at the start of the battle, if she is the frontmost position, so she's on the left-hand side of your vanguard, she will immediately deploy these shields. So good tanking abilities, and also I really like her. She's a funny girl. And Dunkirk, okay, you can use her for farming Gascon, Champagne. I think Brest also uses main fleet French ships for a part of hers. Actually, I don't know if Gascon and Champagne even allow you to use French ships. I think might use like Alien and Ironblood. It's like, oh, it's not enough French ships to farm. Let's not update shit. Maybe they are. She only has Dunkirk on one skill. She has a 50% chance upon firing her main guns to launch a frontal barrage, which looks like this. She's got good coverage. Isn't for mobbing. So I want to throw her in there because I quite like her. Got nice skins. She also makes you goodies. It's a sweet chef. Not for the actual word is for it. Let's see. Boom. There's that skin. And when it loads in 20 seconds, because I have terrible internet, there you go. So yeah, I really like this skin. So yeah, she's here because I really like her. So that was the heavy pull. Let us move on to the special pull. Alright, here we are in the special pull. So as you can see at the top, we have SS, stands for submarine, because these Ironblood subs are very, very good. Now I know U96 has been in many of the selection tickets, so eventually she'll be there, and that way you can get U101 and U81. But for U96, she buffs her own torpedo crit rate by 20%, and at the start of battle, fires a torpedo barrage. And then she buffs the accuracy and crit damage for all your Ironblood submarines. And then for each Ironblood submarine in your fleet, buffs her own accuracy, reload, and evasion by 6%. So she gives a 10% accuracy buff, 15% crit damage buff if you use her in Ironblood fleet. And all the Ironblood destroyers have really good synergy with themselves, except for, where is she? U47, who wants to be alone, and it's very sad. Next up, we have U101 in the middle there. She buffs her own accuracy by 15%, and when she's sorted as the non-flagship, so not in the middle of the submarine fleet, she moves forward for 18 seconds and moves back to her original position. So she gets a bit closer to the enemies, and so her torpedoes travel less distance. And then she has another buff that increases evasion rate by 7%, damage dealt to enemy destroyers and light cruisers by 7% for all your Ironblood submarines in the same fleet. Also increases her own torpedo stat and reload stat by 6% for each Ironblood submarine in the same fleet. So synergy is the name of the game. And rounding out the list of like general purpose, good, like the mainstays of the Ironblood submarine fleet, U37 could also be in here. She's more of a light armor niche. U81 does more damage to CVs, so 20% more damage to CVs, nice. When her own torpedo hits an enemy ship, 15% chance to cause flooding for 25 seconds, inflicting damage every 3 seconds. So nice extra damage being applied over time. And I believe flooding also causes slowing. And then if you inflict effect is applied on an enemy ship that already has flooding, it refreshes the flooding duration. So if it's an enemy that's in flooding and it's about to go off, patch the holes up, just bada bing, bada boom, 24 more seconds of flooding for you. And then she buffs her own evasion by 40%. And then during battle, she increases her own torpedo stat, reload, and accuracy by 7% per Ironblood submarine in the same fleet. So yeah, really, really potent combination there. You'll notice I did not put any Eagle Union submarines in there. It's because Albacore is in the Merit Shop, and then Kavala is in the Ashen Simulacrum War Archives. So you can get those two there, and then the third one to complete it, and the most important one, Archerfish, is tied to the New Jersey event. So she is not here now. It's going to be a long time before she shows up. Moving on to the next tier, we have Ryuho, a nice healer for first 3 airstrikes. They will heal 3 times over 3 seconds, each targeting the allied surface ship with the lowest percentage HP remaining. And then each these heals will restore 3% of Ryuho's match HP. So if you have some HP gear on her, well, you're probably running double steam catapult, and those give decent amount of HP. Recruits her heals. And if the fleet is shipping Ryuho's in, enters battle 3 ships afloat, so the main fleet, healing effect is doubled, so that's a lot nicer. And also, she increases your Vanguard's damage taken, so decreased damage taken from enemy sub-torpedoes by 12%. So that's quite nice for World 14. And then when your submarine fleet enters the battle, heals 20% HP to each boat and your submarine fleet. And then whenever a boat in your submarine fleet sinks an enemy ship, buffs Ryuho's damage by 3.5%, and this can be stacked up to 6 times. So definitely only running her with submarines as support. So quite good for World 14 in that regard. Also, she is a light aircraft carrier, so she can use the ASW planes. That's really nice. Next up is Centaur, twofold. She is a slower, so when she launches an airstrike, she also deploys an extra set of Swordfish torpedo planes, which reduce the speed of enemies that they hit by 40% for 6 seconds. So it's not as good as, say, Ark Royal or Implacable, who are just, when they launch their planes, there they go. But it's not all she has. When she launches an airstrike, she also buffs your main fleet's aviation by 15% and firepower by 10% for 8 seconds. So with the proper timing, really good buffer. Next up is Formidable, also a slower. She buffs her own aviation by 15%. All ferry albacore planes in use gain 15% extra efficiency. So these are the torpedo bombers. They only go up to elite, which is unfortunate. But even if you're using, say, the other illustrious class with her, they have them, then you can they get extra buffs. That's nice. And then when she has a ferry albacore plane, so this is a torpedo bomber, there's a 100% chance to launch an additional set of planes that has a 80% chance of flooding for 9 seconds upon hitting an enemy. So she ideally wants a ferry albacore plane, but I have to see how much that extra airstrike and that extra flooding compares to having just a barracuda, a wyvern on her. And then when she launches an airstrike, 8% chance to reduce all speed of enemies to 0 for 1.5 seconds. And after that, the enemies will slowly regain their speed in the next 2.5 seconds. And this skill is guaranteed to activate on the first airstrike of each battle. And then lastly, she reduces damage taken to herself by 8%. And when launching an airstrike, decreases damage taken by other ships in the main fleet by 8% for 10 seconds. Now with Formidable, she's been around a couple times. She was in Imperial Tragic Comedy, And so she was there for the original run, the rerun, and the War Archive run. So she was on banner several times. And she was also on banner for the it was Imperial Pompeo and the Sardinia aircraft carrier that's like sisters with Veneto Impero. So she was also there too. So when that reruns with Add to War Archives, Formidable should be on right up there too. So be aware of that. Next up is Essex. Very, very good for anti-air. I tend to use her in my World 13 fleets. I'm trying to raise someone up and like or do PR farming, and it's a Vanguard, and I just want I want my AA to be dealt with. S6 is very, very good for that, especially if Yorktown 2 pair with her. When she launches an airstrike, she launches additional Avenger plane, so an extra barrage of planes, that inflicts blood damage on hit, and also she increases her damage to battleships by 10%. So her and Intrepid later, that's why Intrepid's here, the DB buff. And then she has another skill, increase her aviation and anti-air stats by 5% for each alien CV or light cruiser in your fleet, including herself. So with just her, she gets that 5% buff. But if you have, Yorktown 2, Intrepid, Enterprise, Hornet 2, gets that extra buff. Casablanca, Independence, it's listing good ones that are paired with her. And then whenever an enemy aircraft is shot down by her aircraft, she buffs her own aviation by 3%, and this is up to 5 times, so 15% after a little bit. And if you're running good planes on her, and you're in World 13, you'll have that buff almost immediately. And then if there are 4 or more alien ships in your fleet, including herself, so you just need 3 or more, then whenever your ship in your fleet takes aviation damage, she has a 12% chance to reduce that instance of damage to 1. So, just has a chance to basically almost negate all damage. That's really, really nice. So yeah, Essex, more than a meme. Next up is Taiho, and she's only this high because she has her augment gear. So before, she has basically an RNG role of launching airstrikes, but they're not guaranteed. But after her retrofit, her augment gear, she launches 2 airstrikes instead of 1. And then with a 25% chance to launch the remaining squadron not chosen. So, if she fires a Ryusei and a Suisei, then she will fire also a Seion. And Seions do not attack, but they increase your main fleet's damage dealt by 10% for 8 seconds. So, very, very good. And a similar skill to what one will have later. And then Heavily Armored, which is funny, decreases damage she takes from enemy airstrike and HE ammo by 20%. It's funny it says HE because while she didn't sink to HE, she sunk to 1 torpedo from Albacore, and then she exploded because of the gas leak. Next up is Intrepid. When she finishes loading the airstrike, she launches a special Helldiver Barrage. This barrage inflicts a standard armor break to all battleships, battlecruisers, and aviation battleships. And then standard armor broken enemies take 8% more damage from shelling. And then it lasts for 6 seconds, it does not stack. And then there's another skill, during the 1st, 3rd, and 5th battles of each sortie that this ship participates in, increase their aviation by 15%. During the 2nd, 4th, and 6th battles, she takes less damage by 12%. And then her last skill, when her HP falls below 20%, activates both the following buffs. She takes no burn damage for 30 seconds, and decrease all other damage she takes by 25% for 20 seconds. So overall, the arm break is really nice, but should I have put her on this list? Probably not, but I quite like her, so she is there. Next up is niche of all niche. I don't even think much application for this niche, but she was very, very good. I'm talking about I-13 for the old school challenge mode, where you want to just kill the boss as fast as possible. So when she enters the battle, she launches a Scion plane that increases damage dealt by the main fleet by 10% for 10 seconds. So with the old challenge mode, most of your torpedoes from your submarines aren't really hitting, so it doesn't really matter how good they are. And she has a very good torpedo stat anyway, but that extra damage, so your preloads just shred the enemy. Whoever it was, just shred them. And she also gets extra oxygen by 40 points, so that's quite nice. But yeah, overall, that really niche thing was not really used anymore. Obviously, you can still use her for that purpose, but just back to the buff is only 10 seconds, and it's only when she first enters the battle. If she had a augment gear that made it kind of repeat more often with the launching, then that'd make her a lot better, have her some viability. But for now, unfortunately, the Soccer Empire submarines just kind of don't really have a place in the world. They're still very good, but just don't have the synergy of the Ironblood or the Union submarines. Next up, we have Shokaku. Now, she is very, very good for buffing your fleet. So when she launches an airstrike for 12 seconds, each ship in your fleet deals 10% more damage and receives 10% less damage. So very, very nice buffs there. And the reason why she's so low, but having that nice buff, is you can get her from the metal shop. So I would recommend getting her from the metal shop from retiring ships. And her other skill is when she's stored with Zuikaku, buffs her own aviation stat by 30% and increases almost, but at the cost, increases her own damage received by 5%. So yeah, nice buffer, but you can get her pretty easily. And lastly, we have Surcouf, the submarine with the cruiser guns. So when she enters the battle, increases the escort fleet's accuracy by 20% for 20 seconds. I don't know what they mean by escort fleet. Are they talking about the submarines or the whatever? But when she surfaces, she stays on the surface for 12 more seconds. So this way, she's firing off that cruiser main gun. She can only equip this one gun, it's an 8-inch gun. But yeah, so she's there just because I like her. So yeah, this was all of Wishing Well. Let me know if there was anyone's you think I missed, so other people can see them and help them out. Please give a reasoning why. It's not just like, oh, use X and just use X. Choose X. Try and give good reasoning so people can make their own choice. Like, okay, good thoughts. I'll go with them instead of what said or whatever. Yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it useful. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.